Students, good morning. In the previous class, we were discussing about virtualization. And as part of that, in the previous class, we discussed about the three major components of virtualization, that is guest, host, and the virtualizer layer. And we know now what is the role of each of these layers. And after that, we started with the characteristics of virtualized environments. And there are basically three main characteristics. One is increased security, managed execution, and portability. And we know what are the concepts that comes under managed execution, that is sharing the resources, sharing the physical resources between between guest operating systems and applications, then aggregating the physical resources to create a single image impression to the guest OS and applications, and emulating the physical hardware and isolation. Okay, after that, then machine reference model also we studied. Hello, students. Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah, we finished machine reference model also, isn't it?
yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me about what you understood from machine reference model.
Mainly it is an application programming interface,
Huh?
and IS is instruction set architecture for registers, processors, and also memory.
Uh-huh.
Uh, uh, in that, we have two security classes: privilege and non-privilege. Yes, sir.
Okay.
An application binary interface.
What is it?
Uh, it is
So you can see here in this diagram one. So it's application binary interface. So it interfaces between operating system, libraries, and the application. So that means to separate the operating system from libraries and application. So that's what the function of ABA. And it uses system calls. It uses system calls. No, right? System calls are nothing but application program interfaces, and it allows probabilities of application and libraries across operating systems. That means, so when the application is installed above the operating system, basically it needs libraries so that are installed above this operating system. To access them, this ABI provides system calls. To access the libraries, this ABI provides system calls. And you can see here, and the diagram 2, here you have the hardware. Then you can see here there is a possibility where the libraries can directly access instruction set architecture, and even the applications can access the hardware directly, whereas in the traditional model it is not possible. In the traditional model, applications cannot access hardware directly, whereas here in the diagram B, the second diagram, where applications can access the hardware directly, and even the library, the system libraries can, say for example, uh, let us assume there are some system libraries which are meant for dynamic memory allocation. So therefore, they can access the hardware directly. That's about the machine reference architecture. And also, we are talking about privileged instructions and non-privileged instructions. So non-privileged instructions are those that can be used without interfering with other tasks because they do not access shared memory. That means when I say non-privileged, they don't rely upon shared memory, and they are used for performing arithmetic and floating point operations. Whereas privileged exceptions, they are executed under specific restrictions and are mostly used for sensitive operations. So what are those sensitive operations? In that there are two types. One is behavior sensitive, which deals with input output operations, and control sensitive uh, operations or instructions. So the control sensitive instructions are those that can alter the state of the CPU registers. Now further we study these privileged and non-privileged instructions in detail. Now look at here. So how the privileged instructions will execute. See, now let us assume this is the kernel. See, look at this. This diagram represents the kernel. This whole circle represents the kernel. And here, the ring 0, you have so many rings here, ring 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now, when we assign the priority to these instructions, always the highest priority goes to ring 0. Then second highest priority goes to ring 1. Next priority ring 2. And finally, the least priority goes to ring 3. Now, what are these the ring 0, 1, 2, and 3? These are the rings which contains some of the instructions. Depending upon the importance of these instructions, they are categorized into ring 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now you can look at the meaning of this. Ring 0 is supervisor mode. That means it is the admin. Ring 0, that means it will execute in system mode. And it is the most privileged level used by the kernel. You can see, there are, when I say threads, there are two types of threads, user threads and system threads. So the system threads will be run in ring 0 and ring 1, which are having highest priority. Ring 1 and 2 are used by OS level. The ring 0 is the most privileged level, which is used by the kernel. The kernel means it will take care of the process scheduling and memory scheduling very importantly. It will take care of memory scheduling and process scheduling very importantly. That will be taken care by kernel. The kernel is one of the software, very important software module within the operating system, and that is regarded as the heart of the operating system as well. Then ring 1 and 2 are used by operating system level services. So what are the services of operating system? Say multi-user system, multitasking system. We say those are the features of OS, isn't it? So to perform such tasks, ring 1 and 0 will be used. That means ring 1 and 0 will contain the instructions which can be executed by operating system. So they are meant for providing operating system level services. And ring 3 is the least privileged level and used by the user. That means the user threads are run in ring 3. So this diagram is very important for you. Everyone has to learn this diagram. Ring 0, 1, 2, and 3. Ring 0 will have the highest priority, and ring 3 will be having the least priority. And ring 0 will be executed by the kernel level threads, and ring 1 and 2 are executed by OS level, OS related. It will be taken care by the operating system to run the instructions that will perform operating system related tasks. And ring 3, it will run in user mode. That means used to run the user threads. Say for example, you are running some one or two applications. Okay, those things will be run in ring 3. You can see here ring 0 super user mode and ring 3 is user mode. Now let us see what is hardware level virtualization and why it got its name hardware level virtualization. It is a virtualization technique that provides an abstract execution environment in terms of computer hardware on top of which a guest OS can be run. It is also called as system virtualization. So look at the main purpose of hardware level virtualization. The very intent of this hardware level virtualization is whatever the hardware resources that you have, maybe the processor, memory, secondary memory, and so on. So you virtualize and provide services to guest operating systems. and it is also called as system level virtualization. Look at this diagram. Hardware level virtualization. In the lower level, you are having the host. This is the host system. Upon that, you are installing virtual machine. So this is there is VMM. VMM is nothing but the hypervisor, virtual machine monitor or virtual machine manager. It is also called as virtual machine monitor or virtual machine manager. And so there is binary translation of instructions to understand how to access to understand the hardware architecture, isn't it? To understand the hardware architecture, there is something called as ISA, instruction set architecture, and there is binary translation of the instructions. So what is that binary translation? What are the instructions that are to be executed? That will be, if that has to be understood by the hardware, then that has to do binary translation of those instructions so that the it can interact with the system. And here you have the storage, which is the virtual storage. See, this is the actual storage and this is the virtual storage. So why that virtual storage is required? Say for example, you are having some say 500 GB of hard disk, and you are having one guest operating system, only one guest operating system, and upon that you have installed 5 applications. Okay, so let us assume all the 5 applications are up and running. Now how the memory will be shared? So that will be taken care by VMM, whether it has to allot 100 GB for each of the application, or it has to keep some memory as a buffer and allocate the remaining um, memory. That all depends upon the type of hypervisor that you are installing, and that decision will be taken care by the VMM. How much memory to be allocated for each of the application, how to virtualize, then how to create a single image uh, impression to the guest operating system. So that will be taken care by VMM. And here is the guest application and in-memory representation. In case of hardware level virtualization, you will be having the bare hardware. Upon that bare hardware, that will be considered as the host. Here the meaning of host is the bare hardware is called as the host. Upon that you are installing the layer of software which is called as virtualization layer or the hypervisor. Upon that hypervisor we can install guest operating system. Then upon that guest operating system we can install the libraries and applications. That's about hardware level virtualization. And here one important thing is how the virtual machine will interact with the underlying hardware. So that is through binary translation of instructions. So that means whatever the instructions that are there, that will be converted into ISA format, ISA understandable format. That is called as binary translation. And let us see what is hypervisor. Hypervisor runs above the supervisor mode. It runs in supervisor mode. See, actually, see here, there are two contrasting statements. It runs above the supervisor mode. So that is one statement. Another statement, it runs in supervisor mode. Students, we need to understand. Say, if at all you want to say install the hypervisor, you must have superuser privileges. So that's the reason why it runs in supervisor mode. And why it is called as supervisor mode? Why? Because it will take care of controlling and managing the underlying hardware resources and providing them as virtual resources to the guest operating systems. And it recreates a hardware environment. So how it recreates the environment? By emulating the physical hardware, it will recreate the hardware environment. And it is a piece of software that enables us to run one or more virtual machines on physical server. You can create one or more virtual machines on a physical server. So physical server is called as a host. So here you need to understand the meaning of host. Say for example, I have a CPU and have some hardware resources in it, that is called as a host. Or you can buy one dedicated server and you call it as a host. And another name of this hypervisor is virtual machine monitor or virtual machine manager. When it comes to variants of hypervisor, there are two types of hypervisor: type 1 hypervisor and type 2 hypervisor. Let us see what is type 1 and type 2. Now look at this diagram. Look at this diagram. We have the hardware in the lowermost layer, and above that you have virtual machine manager or the VMM, which is also called as hypervisor. Now this is the middle layer is the hypervisor. What is this ISA? Instruction set architecture. So why this is what it indicates? It indicates the binary translation between virtual machine manager and the hardware. Similarly, above the virtual machine manager and in between, that means in between virtual machines and virtual machine manager, there is ISA because it has to do the translation, binary translation of the instructions. Say for example, if you give a command in through VM, virtual machine manager cannot understand it. So some binary translation is needed that will be taken care by ISA. It runs directly on top of the hardware. The type 1 hypervisor you can install only on top of the hardware. If you install like that, then only you can call it as type 1 hypervisor. You take the hardware, you configure whatever the hardware resources you want, you configure and set up. Then you install hypervisor above that. Then only you can call it as type 1 hypervisor. It takes place of operating system. So usually, what is the traditional approach? The traditional approach is that first we assemble all the required hardware. Upon that, we install the operating system. Now here, instead of installing the operating system, here we are installing the hypervisor. So that means it is taking place of the operating system here. And it directly interact with the ISA exposed by the underlying hardware, so that you can see in this diagram. And another name of this is also known as native virtual machine. It is also called as native virtual machine. Then what is type 2 hypervisor? Students, look at this diagram and tell me in our labs whether we are using type 1 hypervisor or type 2 hypervisor. I think it is very clear from this diagram. Devmalya, are you here? Arbaz Khan? Junjar Singh? Bhargavi? Hello? Arjun?
Sir, type 2.
Yeah, type 2. Okay, why it is type 2? Arjun, justify why, how, in what sense it is type 2 in our lab. Arjun? In our lab, what has happened? We have already installed an operating system. That means we have a hardware. Upon that, we have installed the operating system. Above that, we are using VMware. So now this is virtual machine manager. That is nothing but the VMware in our example. Above that, we are creating virtual machines. Say for example, if I install one guest operating system, that is one virtual machine. If I install another guest operating system, that becomes another virtual machine. So upon each virtual machine, what we do, we keep installing the applications, isn't it? So that's how we are dealing with virtualization in our lab. So therefore, the type of setup what we are using in our lab to achieve virtualization is type 2 hypervisor. It requires the support of an operating system to provide virtualization services, and this operating system is called as the host operating system. And above this virtual machine manager, whatever you install, that is called as guest operating system. See here in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 guest operating systems and one host operating system. So in our lab, Windows is called as a host operating system and Linux is called as a guest operating system, isn't it? Then programs are managed by the operating system. Then emulate the ISA of virtual hardware. See, this virtual machine manager will emulate the ISA instruction set architecture of virtual hardware. So this is the virtual, where is the virtual hardware? Here is the virtual hardware, which is made available to each of these VMs. VMs means virtual machines. You need to understand VM means virtual machine, VMM means virtual machine manager or monitor. VM means virtual machine. It is also called as host virtual machine or hosted virtual machine. The previous one is native virtual machine, and this one is hosted virtual machine. Why it is hosted virtual machine? Because you are installing it on top of the host operating system, hence it got its name hosted virtual machine. And you can see here ABI is required, application binary interface, ABI. So that sits in between operating system and virtual machine manager. And there is ISA, so which is required at two places. That means in between OS and hardware, and in between virtual machine and virtual machine monitor. So what is the purpose of it? The purpose of it is to do binary translation. Next is virtual machine manager. So what is virtual machine manager? Now let us see in detail. Okay, that means it is nothing but studying hypervisor in detail. So hypervisor or the VMM has three main modules. One is the dispatcher, allocator, and another one is interpret. Now let us see what is the role of the dispatcher. Dispatcher is also called as the entry point of VMM. Reroutes the instructions issued by VM instance. So first of all, we need to understand what is the meaning of VM instance. You have a virtual machine that is called an VM instance. If you say, for example, if you copy one ISO image of Linux, that is called as one VM instance. And if you copy one instance of Ubuntu OS, that is called as one VM instance. Okay, that's the meaning. So dispatcher is the entry point of VMM. So therefore, it provides the interface to connect with the virtual machine. It reroutes the instructions issued by the VM instance. So its major task is to reroute the instructions issued by VM instance. So that VM instance can be like Fedora or on any guest operating system. So that's a VM instance. Then allocator. So what is this? What is the task of allocator module? Means deciding the system resources to be provided to the VM. Say for example, when you have some X unit of memory, so how much is to be allocated for one instance? How much memory is to be allocated to second instance, and how much memory is to be allocated for third instance? So that will be taken care by allocator module. And the dispatcher has to invoke this allocator. That means it is invoked by the dispatcher. Then interpreter. The interpreter means you know, right? How to interpret means how to that means to understand the definition and to execute the things. So what the interpreter will do? It will understand the instructions and accordingly it will perform actions. That is consists of interpreter routines executed whenever a VM executes a privileged instruction. That means interpreter will be executed whenever the virtual machine executes privileged instructions. You know the right privileged instructions will be executed in ring 0. That means system related tasks, and a trap is triggered and the corresponding routine is executed. In Unix, you have studied about signals and traps, isn't it? A trap is triggered and the corresponding routine is executed. That means when it sends a particular signal, it will invoke one particular routine. Routine means what? Function. Okay, now we'll summarize. The virtual machine monitor, it consists of 3 modules: dispatcher, which is the entry point, and its task is to read out the instructions that are issued by virtual machine instance. Any guest OS can be a virtual machine instance, and its task is to invoke the allocator. It will also invoke the allocator, and allocator decides what resources to be provided by what resources should be provided to each of the virtual machine instance, then how much is to be provided. Then interpreter. So it consists of the interpreter. So when I say interpreter, its task is to understand the semantics of each instruction and accordingly to take action. Say if the instruction is to allocate memory, it has to allocate. It has to understand that the instruction belongs to memory allocation. Then it has to invoke a particular routine. In turn, that routine will allocate the memory. So that's how it works. For that, it uses the concept of signals and traps. So trap is triggered and the corresponding routine is executed. Then this interpreter is executed whenever the virtual machine executes a privileged instruction. When it executes non-privileged instruction, that means that will be executed by the guest operating system itself. Then there is no work for the interpreter. But whenever it executes privileged instruction, then only it will take the help of the interpreter. Look at your students. When you are dealing with the system, you will be performing 2 types of tasks. So as part of that, it will be executing a lot of instructions. When it tries to execute the privileged instructions, then it will take the help of interpreter. Otherwise, it will be directly executed by the guest OS itself. Such instructions will be remaining instructions will be directly executed by the guest OS itself. Look at this diagram. This diagram basically tells the architecture of VMM. If you get a question like explain VMM in detail with the help of an architecture, then this is the diagram you are supposed to write. VMM, as I told, it contains 3 modules. First is the dispatcher, second is allocator, and third is interpreter. Then students remember, you have to write the module names in the sequence. Always the first is the dispatcher because that is the entry point. Then in turn it will invoke allocator, isn't it? Then if at all, if your application is running privileged instructions, then it will invoke interpreter. So dispatcher is one which is responsible for invoking both allocator and interpreter modules. So therefore you have to write it in proper sequence: dispatcher, allocator, and interpreter. Then above this you have virtual machine instance. So whatever the guest application you have, guest operating system that you have installed, that is called as a VM instance. Then to provide communication between virtual machine and the hypervisor or the VMM, you need ISA. That instruction translation has to be done. That will be taken care by ISA. Now let us see what is the criteria for virtual machine monitor. That means we need to understand. So When I say virtual machine, when we can call it as a virtual machine, so what are the mandatory tasks it has to do? So that becomes the criteria for VMM. So one such criteria is equivalence. So the meaning of equivalence is it has to exhibit the same behavior as when it is executed directly on the physical host. That means, let's see, we are using Fedora, isn't it, in our labs by using VMware. It works similarly as if you are having full-fledged operating system, isn't it? As if you have installed it directly. That is called equivalence. Say if you execute ls command, it has to give some output in the similar way as if you have installed it as a separate full-fledged operating system. And when you execute the shell script, it has to execute properly, isn't it? Even though if you are using virtual machine, it has to execute properly as if you have installed a full-fledged operating system, Linux operating system. That is called, that property of the VMM is called as equivalence. Then resource control. So as I told, when you have multiple guest operating systems and multiple applications, what resource is required for the VM instance, then how much of the available resources are to be allocated. So that is part of resource control. Then efficiency. See how to one way of improving the efficiency is by installing the virtual machine monitor, then creating several virtual machines, so that when you have, say, when you, especially when you have the server machines, you'll be having a lot of physical resources. If you want to use them to the fullest extent, then it is better to go with virtualization. So that improves efficiency. A statistically dominant fraction of the machine instructions should be executed without intervention from VMM. So that is one way of achieving efficiency. So a statistically dominant fraction of machine instructions. That means major part of the machine instructions should be executed without intervention from the VMM. So then we can say it is highly efficient. See students, when you install so many applications, what happens? So many applications, when you are running in concurrency, lot of instructions will be executing. So most of those instructions will run in user space. That means it doesn't require the help of VMM. Only in case when you are saving the program, or when you are migrating the program from one location to another location. So that is where the VMM will interfere. That means those instructions are privileged instructions. So that means VMM will execute only the privileged instructions. So and remaining all the non-privileged instructions will be executed without taking any help from the VMM. That's what you need to understand. Okay, I want you to understand that VMM will execute privileged instructions, and all the non-privileged instructions will be executed directly by the guest OS without any intervention from VMM. Is it clear, students? Hello? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to ask with respect to criteria for VMM? You got the meaning of criteria of VMM? See, as a hypervisor or VMM, it has to do some mandatory tasks. That criteria is called as criteria for VMM. That is equivalence, resource control, and efficiency. So after this, there are several theorems that we'll see in the next class. So that's a okay. In one shot, we'll finish all the theorems. In tomorrow's class, we'll finish those theorems. Those are also important. Now I'll take the attendance. 1 minute. Asta Bachawat, Abhinav,
Present, sir.
Aishwarya,
Present, sir.
Arbaz, Arjun,
Present, sir.
Bhargavi, Debmalia, Deepika MB,
Present, sir.
Gangubai,
Present, sir.
Guria Kumari,
Present, sir.
Junjar Singh.
Present, sir.
Junjar Singh, I'll put absent for you. I called your name twice to ask the question. What you are doing?
Sir, I didn't know. Sir.
You have come for attendance. I'm marking it as absent. Will you
Sir.
repeat this?
No, sir, I didn't know, sir. Sir, I didn't know.
Then what you are doing then?
Listening.
Simply you did login and you're doing something else. Huh?
No, sir.
Okay, next time if you repeat, I'll put absent. When I call, you should reply. Kavya,
Present, sir.
Lata,
Yes, sir.
Manisha,
Present, sir.
Pavitra,
Present, sir.
Maithili,
Present, sir.
Priyanka,
Present, sir.
Pawan Kumar,
Present, sir.
Akash,
Present, sir.
Rakesh,
Present, sir.
Ravishankar,
Yes, sir.
Rizwan,
Present, sir.
Vishal,
Present, sir.
Savita,
Yes, sir.
Shruti,
Present, sir.
Sneha,
Yes, sir.
Purti,
Present, sir.
Srinidhi, Vaishnavi,
Present, sir.
Vinny, that's it, students. Thank you. Tomorrow